Hello and welcome back to the Wine Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Heather Danitz of Craft and Cluster, a wine photography and marketing consulting company based in Santa Barbara wine country. Today, we are talking with Maggie, co-owner of and director of sales and marketing at Alta Colina Winery in Paso Robles. And we're going to be talking to you all about your new subscription service. Hi, Maggie.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. Great to see you.
So stoked to have you here. So before we get into today's topic, can you give us a brief rundown of who you are, how you got into this, etc.? Start wherever you want to start.
Yes. Alta Colina is my family business, and my dad and I really started it together. So we are 21 and a half years in. We bought raw land on the west side of Paso in the Adelaida district in 2003 and developed a 31-acre from scratch. We now have a small production facility and tasting facility, and everything's on site, which is exciting. We sold our first bottle of wine in 2009. So we've been in the wine sales game for about 15 years. And at this point, we're at about 3,000 cases annually, give or take 500, depending. We sell some fruit. Our biggest sales channel is club. So that's about half, 55% of our sales. The tasting room is a big piece. We do about 10% wholesale. And that's just within California. So DTC is our business model with some supplemental wholesale. We're inviting people to the property. So in short, that's what we've got going on.
Yeah, that is wild. Were you always going to be in the wine industry, or did you have ambitions of doing something else?
It was super not the plan at all. You know, I didn't grow up with the winery in existence. This was a project that my parents started when I was finishing high school, starting college. And so I never was like, F you, family business, I'm doing something else. It just wasn't the plan.
Yeah.
And I graduated from college in 2007 into a not a great economy, and I basically couldn't get a job. And so I was working on jobs to pay rent, whatever. And then I decided to move to the Central Coast because my sister, who's 7 years older than me and really has her life together, had a vacation home in Templeton. One day she was like, Maggie, you have stupid jobs. You could have a stupid job and pay rent in San Francisco, or you could have a stupid job and stay in this vacation house for a little while. And so I moved down here and worked at other wineries. Well, we had wine in barrel. There was nothing, we didn't have a brand. There was nothing to do at Alta Colina. So I worked at other wineries and then started sort of phasing in with my dad. And he and I worked full time together for over 10 years, which has been pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. Yeah. And you mentioned that you guys are primarily DTC, which leads us really conveniently into our topic of conversation today, which is the subscription service that you are now offering at Alta Colina. And it's called the SIPscription, which I think is extremely cute.
Molly came up with that. I love it too.
Molly, God love her.
Why
So
not?
wonderful. Yeah. So I guess like the best place to start is, what is a subscription service and what makes it different from your wine club? Like, is it the same? Is it different? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
Lay it out for us.
So as we talk about this, I'm going to talk about club. And when I'm talking about club, I mean our traditional twice yearly membership. And then I'll talk about subscription. Later, we'll talk about some of the challenges with it. And it's having both sort of traditional club and subscription being under the club bucket. From our like software standpoint. But in short, our wine club is on our schedule. We have set wines. People do have the option to customize. About 35% of them actually do. But it's our, big fancy wines. Alta Colina, the way our wine offerings have grown up, we have what we call our core wines, which are our higher and reds, which are all line priced at $68. So that's our GSM, our core Syrahs. We have a more Ved blend. We make a petite Syrah. We also have our core whites at $48. And then we have 3-4 wines, depending on the year, at $38. And one of them is our By the Glass red blend, our Pet Nat, our Carbonic, and our rosé. We also can some rosés. We actually make 2 rosés. And those are all at the $38 price point. And the club focuses on the core wines, while subscription skews towards the sort of entry-level tier, the more drink now style. And the biggest difference is, rather than the value proposition being access on my schedule, it is convenience on your schedule. So a subscription is, if you've ever done Blue Apron or one of those, where you can log in easily, adjust what you want, adjust the timing of when you get it, that's the idea. Yeah, and we're brand new. The subscription it's a slow burn. We're about 4 months in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's growing slowly. It's not a silver bullet, but it's been a really cool addition to the offerings.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's kind of like a first pancake right now, and you're hopefully the second pancake will get even better and even better and even better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're making notes as we go,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love this. I love the idea of being able to kind of catch you on this journey like at the beginning, and then maybe we can revisit this, in a year or two and see how it's changed and how you've adapted to the challenges that we'll get into and all that, because yeah, I think it's so interesting. I think that a subscription service is it's so smart. It's such a smart idea. I used to run social media for Alloy Wineworks back when they were around, and for those unfamiliar, the Alloy Wineworks is a canned wine, or was a canned wine company, and they offered, because they didn't have vintages on their wines. They were all non-vintage wines, except for, I think, maybe their Gruner Veltliner they had vintages on that one. But for the most part, you were getting this consistent, like the same thing year after year. And so they offered a subscription service where you would get like 10% off if you purchased, a case or more of the wine on a regular schedule. So you could do it like monthly. You could do it every 2 months. You could do it every 3 months. And it was just so smart, such a smart thing to do. So I guess kind of my next question is what made you want to offer this as, because I think it's a great idea, but I'm already, you're sort of like preaching to the choir right now. So like sell everyone else on why you wanted to do it and why you think it's a good idea.
We have been talking about it for years, for probably
Mm-hmm.
3 years. Part of the reason is because our software has the functionality. It was an option.
Mm-hmm.
And
And what
we just
software is that?
Commerce 7.
Okay.
Yeah. So if people aren't on it now, a lot more of you are getting forced to be on it. So
Yes.
welcome, for better or for worse. Yes.
Welcome.
This is who we are now. Yes. So having the option available, we sort of thought, why wouldn't we? And then just the way that I would love to be like, 10 years ago, we had a plan for these sort of 3 tiers of wines, of quarter reds, quarter whites, and the drink nows. No, it all came about organically based on what we're experimenting with, what's growing well, what's showing well, how we want to present these wines, the way we want to position these wines. And so it felt like a really natural fit as a way to position the drink now wines
Mm-hmm.
and have like a mechanism to get them to people that was just simple, with the basic premise being, you're someone who cares about what you drink, you're someone who cares about where it comes from, how it's made, and who makes it, and you want to support small, which means you can't go to Vaughn's or Albertsons or Smart and Final or Costco and find these wines,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to have them in your fridge. Like, you want to know that they're there. You want to know you have something delicious to drink tonight without really thinking about it. And so we went round and round forever. And then we finally just decided that let's just try this. Let's just put it into
Mm-hmm.
the ether, see what happens. We'll learn as we go, which is what's happening now.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting figuring out how to present it and market it is more difficult than we expected,
Yeah.
because it is not my customer's job to understand the inner workings and workflow of club versus subscription. They don't
Mm-hmm.
care.
Yeah.
But in the tasting room, I already have a club with 3 tiers. That's a lot to explain.
Yeah.
And then here's this thing that's kind of like it, but not quite. And so that's what we're still really trying to figure out how to navigate more successfully.
Yeah.
Do we market it to our existing members as an add-on? Do we ignore them and try to bring in a customer that would never be a member at this point in their sort of
Mm-hmm.
drinking career, their drinking life? There's a lot of ways to come at it, and we're figuring it out. I
Yeah.
also forgot the question.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess just what made you want to offer it, but
Yeah.
I feel like you got into that. But if there's anything you want to add,
I think, yeah, just between the functionality existing and being
Mm-hmm.
pretty solid, and us wanting to find another straightforward, customer-friendly way
Mm-hmm.
to get our wines in their hands, we were like, let's just try it. Like, we've got wines that make sense with this model,
Yeah.
and we can.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Why
Yeah.
not? Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like it's sort of like a build it and they will come kind of scenario. Yeah. And I like the idea, because I wonder too if it would be really beneficial for maybe folks who are out of who don't live in state, who can't take advantage of like the, some of the major benefits of being in a wine club. I feel like that would be a good proposition for them.
Yeah, definitely. And it is structured differently. So with our traditional club, those folks are getting between 10 and 25% off the wines, depending on the tier. Shipping is discounted, or if they buy a case or more, it's included. We do events, sort of those traditional things. And then for subscription, shipping is always included, but there's no discount. And it's much more limited in terms of tastings included in membership, spots at events included in membership. It's really about the convenience of having the wines to just drink at home. And so we opted for that comp shipping rather than discounts, which was a choice. Given the cost of shipping, was it a good choice? I think so, actually. And we spent a lot of time doing some analysis on how many bottles we really need to include per subscription delivery to have that pencil. And so we were originally shooting for 2, but if I have a subscriber in Florida, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Just with the cost of shipping. And so it's 4 bottles per. And when you sign up, it'll default to every 2 or 3 months based on your selection. And you can also log in anytime and say, skip this one, actually send this to me next week, actually double it, actually add some core wines. You can really do whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of including shipping or, having it be a set price, because I think that's weirdly one of those things that that is like a deal breaker for a lot of consumers.
Yes.
Because we have the Amazons of the world where we're getting, 2-day shipping included, if you're a member, and, or, for free. And so we've become so used to it that like, it's so silly. I will spend like easily another, $10, $15, $20 on something if I get shipping included, which is so bananas, because shipping, like typically what I'm buying is, if I'm buying something from like an online clothing store or whatever, the shipping is $5, but I'm like, nope, I will buy another $15 top just to whatever get
It is
free shipping.
wild. Can you swear on this?
Yes, absolutely. Please
Amazon
feel free.
fucked us. Like Amazon fucked everybody.
Really fucked us.
Because it's, as a consumer, I have that expectation of like, well, I know it's possible. What's the problem? And it's, the shipping thing is brutal. And, Amazon is one of the largest market cap corporations on planet Earth. They have different negotiating power with USPS, UPS, and FedEx than I do. The cost of shipping is a real thing. So one of the things that we did for a number of reasons was bring shipping back in-house. We've been using fulfillment for the last about 5 years. And that really came about, I guess 4 years. Because it was really when we saw a surge in online sales during COVID. And we just, obviously we can ship boxes, but like a fulfillment house, this is all they do every day. This is their one thing that they do. And it made sense. And it made sense financially. And just as the cost of shipping has gone up, it was one of the levers we could pull to try to control costs. And especially looking at the subscription model where, yes, convenience is what we're selling, great wine is what we're selling, and the comp shipping thing, that shipping price is out of our control. And we felt like we had the best shot if we could bring it back in-house and just keep costs as low as possible there. Yeah, so that was definitely part of the math as we were trying to decide if this was a thing we could do without losing money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What are some of the other challenges then that you're facing with this, turning this on?
The biggest one is messaging. It's and don't want classical club. We have this other thing that we have to completely explain from scratch. So not only to the public, but also even within the team, like the tasting room team isn't sure how to position this. Do we pitch it to someone who's rejected the club? Do we not mention it and try to guess that, maybe subscription is something they're interested in and just don't bring the club up at all, but focus on selling this? That's really where the challenge has been. And even with collateral, we have our club signups, and we're a small winery. I'm sure some of the listeners can relate. We're like, I have 3,000 more of these club signups. I got to get through some of them before I toss them in the trash, pay design time and printing costs for new ones. And we wanted to get a few cycles under our belt of talking about it before we printed specific collateral. And I think that we haven't honed the messaging quite right yet. Messaging is the biggest challenge in my mind because we do both, right? Like there are wineries where all they do is subscription, and there are wineries where all they do is club, which is what we've been always.
Yeah.
And now doing both, we're figuring out how to make it make sense. It makes perfect sense on our end.
But yeah, communicating that to the consumer is really tough. I wonder, J. Wilkes Winery, they have, it's not a subscription, so it is a club, but it is for those out of state only members.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so they call it their Travelers Club, and so I wonder if maybe that's kind of the, again, like I've already mentioned this, but I wonder if maybe that's the move, you know?
J. Wilkes.
It's really, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's like super genius, because I think that a lot of people, a lot of the out-of-staters, they want to be in the club because they want to support their favorite winery and they want to get these wines on a regular schedule, and they want to get access to, like, first access to, you know, wine or whatever, but they can't take advantage of the free tastings and, you know, and the wine club pickup parties and stuff like that. So so it's, so I don't know, just food for thought.
Yeah. Stay tuned. I'm doing my first ever, well, I've done it one other time, but doing some out of state, like, private tastings in the next couple months. And I'm going to Miami, which is going to be really fun. And also I thought about that, of like one of the in-home events is like, you know, sit down dinner and more formal and skewing more my parents' age. And then the other one is my age, sort of chilling in somebody's house type tasting. And I was like, maybe I'll just market subscription at one and club at the other and just see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, we're learning together.
Yeah. I love a good A/B test.
Always. Exactly. Yeah.
Get real nerdy about that.
And another challenge, that made me think of email.
Oh, yes.
Which made me think of another challenge. So while the functionality exists and is good from a customer-facing perspective, I think in Commerce 7 for subscription, one of the challenges, which before we hit go, we basically called up 10 of our friends and family, some of whom are in the industry, some of whom are sober and are never on a winery website, to sign up as like our beta testers. And the biggest thing that we had to figure out was all the email automations, because when you're thinking about POS software, at least with ours, the channels are club, POS, web, and inbound. And under that club umbrella exists both traditional wine club and the subscription. And so they trigger the same email automations.
Right.
But those are two different audiences who need different information. And we use the integration so that C7 talks to MailChimp. In MailChimp, I can parse. I can segment based on you're a club member or you're a subscriber. In C7, I cannot, because in C7's software brain, it's in the club bucket. So, as an example, when someone signs up to be in our 6-bottle wine club, that's the same email confirmation, transactional email from Commerce 7, as if someone becomes a 4-bottle subscriber. And so we basically had to dumb down the information in those C7 transactional emails. There's only one or two that go out, but some of those, it's information we want our people to have.
Yeah.
And so we had to dumb it down to make it more generic to speak to both audiences. And then once it moved into the MailChimp automations, we could drill down. But, you know, it's minor, but it's sort of frustrating when you're trying to tailor a product that fits a given demographic, and then the first piece of communication they're going to get about it is not specific. It's not ideal, but it's also not a deal breaker. Like, we're sending everyone great wine. It's just wine will be fine, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But figuring out some of those things took some trial and error, because you'd think email logic makes sense, and sometimes it's confusing.
Yeah. I wonder if Erica Walters of Email Mavens, she has a solution to this.
She absolutely
Erica,
does.
if you're listening, I feel like she knows.
Her. She was like my first email. When we were doing this, I was like, Erica, how do I fix this? Like,
help!
Oh. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yes, she's wonderful.
She's wonderful.
For real.
She's so good at it.
So good at it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll get her on this podcast at some point. It's gonna be great.
Yes.
So yeah, that's Yeah, that is super frustrating. And I hopefully C7 comes up with a solution as well to sort of like separate those, because that's really weird to me that they give you the capability to have multiple club tiers, but they don't allow you to segment within their program on those club tiers, because
Yeah.
the information for those club tiers is
Clearly
like even
exists.
like taking subscriptions out of the picture, even if you have just a wine club, but there you have multiple options within that, which every winery does. I don't know. I mean, unless you're teeny tiny, like you have some sort of flexibility within that. So yeah, that's really weird that they don't have that option to kind of
Yeah.
really customize in
It
there.
is weird because you can filter, like you can tag people according to
Yeah.
club level. You can filter as you're whatever searching through the reports. And it's, I mean, maybe it exists and I just haven't figured it out, in which case
Right.
someone please let me know. If somebody
Commerce
knows
7,
how to adjust
please.
those C7 transactional emails based on
Yeah.
more specific segments,
Yeah.
I would love to learn from you and I will bribe you with wine.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
indeed. Yeah, we'll put out the bat signal, as you said.
Perfect.
Hopefully somebody will listen to this and then be like, I have the solution. There
Perfect.
has to. I mean, yeah. Again, there has to be something, because I feel like there's, it's 2025. Jesus,
Exactly. It's our year of the
for
Lord
fuck's sake, man.
2025. Technology exists. Again, once you funnel it into the email program, it's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
But it is that initial, just grinds my gears a little bit. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah, for sure.
It's okay.
We'll figure it out. It'll be fine. So, what's the vision for this? Like, what would you like this to become if C7 figures their shit out and they're able to kind of give you some more functionality in all that? And, if you were able to kind of magically like wave a wand and fix all the challenges that you have, what's your dream? Like, what would you want this to be?
Love for this to be, I don't envision it replacing club. I say that now. In 5 years, maybe I'll be saying something completely different. I see this as growing into, a viable sales channel for a different style of wine, and maybe for a consumer who is willing to spend money on quality products, with values that they're aligned with and all that stuff. And what I would love for the subscription to evolve into is not only a viable sales channel for us,
Mm-hmm.
but one that brings people into the fold of drinking wine, who maybe
Yeah.
right now aren't in a wine club and drinks wine, but maybe not that regularly. But, I see this as you get the Tally Farm box because you care
Mm-hmm.
about the integrity behind the food you ingest. And, alcohol is alcohol if we're going to choose to drink it. Then you can drink wine that's similarly, organically farmed, handmade, small lot. You can get really close to the source and you just know it's in the fridge to drink it. Like, I want to have 1,000 subscribers who I know on any given night of the week, someone is enjoying a really cool drink now wine that I don't care. I don't want them to age it. Like, this is just for you to have it, drink it, enjoy it, share it. Bring a smile to your face, man. Make Tuesday better. Drink something
Yeah.
good.
I love that. I think that's such a beautiful vision. And I think, I don't know what it is about, there's with the health talk and all the wellness influencers out there, they see the value in getting those, as you said, like the Tally Farm box, these farm share boxes, but they don't see the same value in wine or in the beverages that they're consuming. And it's like, man, if you could, like, you're almost there. You see this. And I think that's,
It
yeah, that's a
exists.
beautiful vision. It exists. There are
It
people out
exists.
there making really great wine and at great, prices. So you're not, you don't feel like you have to spend like $60-$70 on a great bottle of wine. You can get one for under $40. And yeah, and that's
Which,
great. And that's a good,
you
like,
know,
everyday drinking wine.
mhm.
Yeah.
And it's $40 is expensive. I get it. Like, that's not a cheap bottle of wine by any
Mm,
means. It's also America. It's expensive to make good wine.
yeah.
To farm it this way and have a team that can translate all the energy we put into the vineyard on the winery side to get it into bottle. And it's this is a bit of a tangent. I just feel like as an industry, for so long, wine in the US was built on a culture of exclusivity. And there are big socioeconomic traditions I don't know the word, but
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, part of the appeal, I guess, with wine was it shows off that you're cultured, that you know stuff, that you aren't intimidated by the wine, and all of that is utter horseshit. Like, it's not a real thing, and we can let this go as a culture. And I think that it's on us in the wine industry, and I know that we're all trying to sort of make it more approachable and more inclusive and all that stuff. And like, we just have to do a better job.
Yeah.
It's grape juice. Like it,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And I just think wine is so perfectly positioned. This isn't White Claw. This
Mm-hmm.
wasn't engineered in a lab.
Yeah.
Yes, there are wines at scale. And you know what? There's a
Mm-hmm.
place for those also. Like
Yeah.
what I think about a lot with wine is like sort of food and restaurants, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they're the McDonald's of wines.
Mm-hmm.
You can get it everywhere. Do you really want to know how it's made? Maybe not.
Probably not.
But sometimes I'm going to do it anyway because it's easy and
Yeah.
it's available and it tastes good, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there are the Michelin star, you can't find a bottle. Even if you can, you can't afford the bottle. Those exist. And then the whole range in between. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Alta Colina, we're sort of the chef owner, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many wineries that the same way you go to farmers market because you want to know who, how, and where behind
Mm-hmm.
the food that you eat, you can know the who, how, and where behind wine pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we're lucky because we live in wine country and, we get to live here and these are our friends and our business. But I just think as an industry, we make good shit. And for the most part, we care about the land and we care about the people. And just as a human who spends dollars, I want to spend dollars on those things.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the story that wine has to tell that, Cutwater can't tell that story.
Yeah. Agreed.
Those Moscow mules are disgusting. I'm so sorry. Drink what you
Yeah.
love. It's not for me.
We're not here to yuck your yum, but
No, we
yeah.
aren't. Cutwater's done amazing things in this space. But,
Yeah.
give me like a hippy dippy, something that came out of the ground,
Yeah.
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 Anyway.
Yeah. No, I agree. And kind of going back to like the conversation about wellness influencers and how they're so ready to demonize wine or like demonize US made wine, which is bananas to me. They're like, oh yeah, like European wine is better because they don't use chemicals or like whatever in their wine. They have like fewer sulfites and whatever. And like a lot of that is just ignorance. They just don't know what they don't know. Somebody told them that European wine is better for you and that, US made wine is filled with like red dye number whatever and all this stuff and it's just false. But also it's I feel like a lot of the times the calls coming from inside the house where we haven't done a good job as communicating and educating on like, hey, there are a ton of wineries in the United States that are farming responsibly and making wines in low intervention ways and all these things that you say European wines are, US made wines are as well. And, you just have to find the right ones. But yeah, it's an education thing. And again, exactly like you said, there's a time and a place for the McDonald's of the wine world, the big box wines and and all that. Because they are a really great introduction there. If somebody wasn't going to drink wine and they come across, like a Stella Rosa or whatever,
Yeah.
and that gets them to drink wine,
I love
that's a
it.
win. Yeah,
It's a
that's
win.
great.
I'm all
Yeah.
for it. Exactly. And
Yeah.
guess what? Like Stella Rosa, you can call those people. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
You're just not that far from the source when it comes to wine,
Exactly.
which is a cool thing.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anytime I'm talking with guests and they're interested in wine but clearly don't drink a ton of it, one of the things that I encourage them to do is when you're looking at the shelf, just look at one shelf, just arbitrary, just pick a shelf. It's just there's a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And the more specific the information on the bottle, so I could designate my wines California, I could designate them Central Coast, I could designate them Slow County, I designate them Paso Robles, and then I'm designating it Adelaide District, and then I'm designating it Alta Colina Estate Vineyard. Like the closer you can drill down to the source, the more likely that it'll be thoughtfully made and farmed, and it's not always 100% true, but often I think of it exactly of just it's the difference between going to Smart and Final for zucchini and going to farmer's market for zucchini.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's good stuff that exists out there.
I love that. I love how you described that though, and how you educate it that way. It's like the closer you can get to the source, the more thoughtful the wine's going to be. Like what an easy concept to wrap your mind around. Because I think sometimes we see a lot of wine, or a lot of people will maybe see those like vineyard designate and they get overwhelmed by the fact that they're like, oh, I don't know these terms, AVA, appellation, like I don't understand what that means. If you're just at the very minimum, you're like, if it's a vineyard designate or if it's an appellation designate, whatever, and it's very likely to be an extremely well-made bottle of wine. And that's not always true, but probably like at least 95%, right?
I think so. Like most of the time. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a tangent, but
yeah. No, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's
as an
relevant because
industry,
that's what
like,
you're trying to do with this.
we can do better as an industry of communicating those things and inviting people in, and wine, we make a cool product that's really, again, it comes out of the dirt. Like, this is farming.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so dreamy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It's
We
one
just
of the
all
things I love so
subscribe.
much about the wine industry.
Exactly. And we'll always have good things in our fridge.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah. It's so simple. It's so simple. Yes. I love that so much. Well, I feel like that's a really good place to kind of pause this conversation. So I always like to end these podcasts with asking my guest if there's like one thing that our listeners can do today, sort of take action on what we talked about. What is one thing that you would say that subscribers can do?
Continue helping us beta test. I mean, if you're using Commerce 7, the functionality exists. If you're not using Commerce 7, see if the functionality exists. And I think what drove us, among the things that got us to concluding that subscription was worth experimenting with, was a reflection of the wines that we're making. Which is a sign that we're small, right? Like, larger places are probably saying, what's the product hole that we need to fill, and let's create a product to do that. And of course, we're like, what is the vineyard giving us?
Yeah.
And how do we best translate that into bottling to our consumers? But I think if you assess your offerings, just, is there a place to position this sort of convenience and like autopilot? My 125 case lot of Petite Syrah that sold out on release to my club, that is not a subscriber wine. It just doesn't fit prompt.
Right.
It is not understanding the assignment of a subscription wine. And so I think and honestly, think about bandwidth. Is another thing on the table a good idea right now? Do you, from a shipping perspective, does it make sense financially and in terms of execution? Is just, all of our efforts in retention and growing the club channel, all of a sudden in the last year and a half, that's a lot harder than it was 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Like, do you literally have bandwidth to create a new program? Yeah. That's like medium actionable.
Yeah. Think about it.
Yeah. Exactly. There's also fun stuff we see as possibility with subscription of, fun, different collateral. And, it's a different audience. It's someone who's drinking wine. Like, of course, with our core wines, folks are popping those corks pretty soon, a fair amount of them. There's also a big audience of our club membership who they want to get into the geeky, the aging charts, all that stuff. And, my subscribers all that information is available to them, but these are folks who, I want to know I have something good to drink later.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Maggie. I feel like this is such a rich topic, and I feel like we could go into like even deeper into it in a future episode.
In a year.
Yeah, I want to see I want to follow up with you in a year and see like what's what and how things are going and all of that, because this is so cool. And I'm fascinated by the concept of subscription models. I think it's such a good idea to just give people wine on a regular schedule that of their choosing. I think it's just so smart, and it's such a great way for wineries, especially smaller wineries, to make money and like support the, business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I hope that it sort of the growth curve continues, because I also think it's a cool offering, and it's something that like appeals to me. The way
Yeah.
I drink a lot of my wine is like, this is a model that makes sense. And
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
thanks for asking me about it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, I was I mean for reference, I guess anybody who is at DTC symposium probably, at least some of them went to your panel that you were on talking about subscription models and all of that. But for those of us, I had to go to a different panel or seminar, and so I wasn't able to go to yours, and I missed it, and I was so bummed. And then anybody who wasn't able to come to DTC didn't get to experience that. So I saw that, and I was like, we need to have a conversation about this
Yay,
because
well, I
this is
appreciate
really
it.
cool. And yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's going to be great once we kind of iron out some of the
Figure it out.
details.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
The DTC symposium panel was interesting. So there were three of us. I was brand new with the program. There's a woman, so Sokol Blosser up in Oregon has a second
Ooh.
label, I think called Evolution.
Uh-huh.
And they don't pretend like they're not connected, but they are different websites. One is primarily wholesale. They're different brands in a big way. And so Sokol Blosser's Club, but I believe it's Evolution is this other label, is all subscription. But they've been doing it for 10 years or something. They've been doing
Whoa.
it for a long time.
Yeah.
And then the third panelist was a guy from North Coast who's doing it on a very like premium level.
Ooh.
So it was an interesting discussion. And I believe that discussion is available. I think it got recorded. But there are folks who've been doing it for a while. But I think as an industry, we have some sort of retraining to do with our consumers that it's an option. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's gonna go great.
Love it.
It's
gonna be great. It's gonna be great. We love it. So good. Everyone's gonna love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I will put all of Maggie's information in the show notes. How can we reach you on the web? How can we reach you,
The
Maggie?
internet. altacolina.com, ALTACOLINA.com. You can also find us just at Alta Colina on Facebook and Instagram. I'm still, speaking of bandwidth, I have not embarked on TikTok yet. I'm thinking about it. Anyway, but we're pretty available. We're pretty available. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will put all that information in the show notes so you guys can check out the SIPscription yourself. And if you feel so inclined, you can be a beta tester and get in there and join the subscription yourself. Get some delicious wines delivered right to your door on a regular schedule.
altacolina.com/join.
Woohoo. And and thank you all for joining us on another episode of the Wine Marketing Podcast, which formerly used to be called the Craft and Cluster Podcast. And you can find me at Craft and Cluster on Instagram and on Substack at winemarketingfieldguide.com. So
I love it.
You guys
Thanks,
are awesome.
Heather.
True love always. XOXO.
Could not have said it better myself.